Nighter. It's the 14th of August, 2025. This is round 2. Some opening announcements before we begin. We have a Grandmaster camp on August 22nd. Sign up early if you plan to attend so we know how many people are going to be there. Another announcement, the US Open. We had a few players play that. Andrew Titus was the highest scoring player for Minnesota with 6.5 points scored out of 9, and we had 4 players finishing with 6 out of 9. So a very nice and very strong showing there. And then on top of that, we have some Scholastic results. WFM Irina Fey won clear first with 5.5 out of 6 points. So congratulations to her. Troy Kamnov won with gained 52 rating with 4 out of 6 points, representing Minnesota, very strong there. And Alan Zhu finished with 3 out of 6, gaining 27 ratings. So congratulations to all of those players. And then we have our player of the week. And this week we have Jacob Pickus, who plays in the open section and has been trying to climb to 1700 so he can play the premier section. His peak rating is 1695 with very strong results in our Thursday Nighter tournament. He placed 3rd with a win over Miles, I believe, in one of the Tuesday Nighters, I believe. I can't remember which one, but I remember him playing incredibly well. His best wins actually includes Miles, along with a few other strong players like Josh, Arthur, Samrat, and Sergey. And his best draws are against Ryan Zhao, Eric, and Torfi, who have all played in the Thursday Nighters. And with that said, let's get to the games.
Yeah, let's do it. So I have Jacob's game up here. Figure we'd start there and then maybe go from the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so Jacob is black here against Angela Lee. I'm gonna maneuver my own things around here. 1 second. Let's start over. Let's start at the beginning.
Yep.
So e4, g6, d4, bishop g7. We got a modern defense, which can and sometimes does get into this kind of hyper accelerated or accelerated dragon type position.
Yeah. And this is what Jacob plays all the time, white or black. He loves this setup. It's just his bread and butter. So I would not be surprised if I saw him outplaying his opponent, because I don't believe his opponent is familiar with these types of setups. She is a slightly younger player. Jacob is also young, a college student, but this is what he plays against everyone. So I think we'll see black making some progress here.
Yep. So c3, solid approach to that. Obviously, like the most theoretical moves are things like, knight c3 or something like that, or even you can go bonkers and start taking pawns, and there's a bunch of theory there. But c3 totally solid. CD, d5. So this is already an interesting structure that I'm a little familiar with myself. Not that I know that much about it, but I know that basically, if you push past here, which is probably the most common move in this position, black's going to almost certainly play bishop g4. And basically, their entire argument here is they're just going to trade this piece off at some point. Usually, they'll wait for you to force them to trade it off. But they're going to trade this bishop for this knight. They're going to play e6, and they're going to be extremely solid with all their pawns on the light squares. And I've actually found myself not wanting to play against that very much, so I do some move orders to avoid it with white. So I don't know if you have any familiarity with these type of positions.
I do. Actually, I think I got a pretty similar position last month in my last round, where I played the white pieces and ended up losing because this exact same plan played out. And yeah, black got some really easy play, and I was struggling to know what to do against it. It's like a dream French where your bishop can get out and you got all your pieces on solid squares. Yeah,
you really have to have it's not good enough with white to just develop pieces in that type of position, because you really need to do something. You need to have a constructive plan is not always clear. And so it can be it can be a really good opening for black, honestly, especially at this level. I mean, even at your master level, I was like, I don't know exactly how to take advantage of it. So, I mean, then again, you look at the results and white scores perfectly fine in it. So it's theoretically fine, just different. So anyway, we didn't get any of that because she took here. E takes d5.
I'm not a huge fan of this. It leaves this isolated pawn, and Jacob is probably going to be trying to grind a position out here. Just long-term play against these d pawns, something like knight f6, knight takes pawn, and it's just very pleasant for black here. I'm not sure how white is going to be able to, long-term defend this pawn, because we have our dark squared bishop pointing at the pawn already, and we can get both knights in. It's just going to be a little bit tricky. Yeah,
it's going to be in an isolated queen pawn type of position, and it should be one that is, fairly pleasant for black in general, because, black's already got a fianchetto bishop, and a lot of times, sometimes the issue in those isolated queen pawn positions is you don't know what to do with your dark squared bishop and exactly where it belongs. Well, it's already on its best square. So yeah, I mean, I think this is perfectly reasonable for white, but again, like, you sort of need to follow it up pretty accurately. So let's see how this goes. Knight f6, knight c3, knight takes d5, and then bishop b5. Okay. Yeah, this is the ideas of like trying to keep the king in the center if you can. It's just a question of whether you can actually do that here. So let's see, knight c6.
I would have probably preferred in this position, just for Jacob later, a move like bishop d7 here seems to maybe win a tempo rather than doing this, because I'm not sure your light squared bishop has any great prospects, especially since I think e6 might be a plan in the future for black pieces just to create a solid outpost in the center. So I prefer bishop d7 personally, but there's not necessarily anything wrong with the move he played. It's just another idea to look at.
Yeah, and bishop d7, I think queen b3 could be something like this, or maybe queen a4, but maybe queen b3, something like this could be what he would be. I don't know, maybe not concerned about, because there's several ways you could react to this, but it seems like this is a perfectly fine way to play too. So. Knight c6, 95. So just kind of going for pressure. All right. And gets a reaction out of it with knight takes c3. So okay, knight takes c3. Oh, and she takes on c6. Interesting. I don't think that's really forced, and unless it's forced, you probably shouldn't do it, because that pin is still valid. It's not like you're having to worry about any sort of queen a5 things hitting you yet. So I think you probably taking back just makes sense.
Yeah, and this is just another thing in case Angela sees this later. When you're playing this type of position, you can always throw in bishop takes knight next move if that's really your plan. There is no rush to do that. I mean, maybe you're afraid of something like queen to c7 to protect the knight, but even that doesn't work because you still have your knight attacking. So you can still go bishop takes knight and queen can't take. So it's just you're giving white too many options. Let them sit there and have to calculate, 30 variations, one of which is, bishop takes knight, rather than telling them this is what I'm going to do so early. It makes it a lot more hard, practically speaking, for your opponent.
Right. Yeah. Takes. He takes. C5. Now this is where it gets a bit interesting here for black too. Yeah, C5. You probably want to play that at some point, but I'd be a little wary with queen a4 coming. So let's see, because you're opening yourself up to this kind of possibility now. And while it might be fine, I'm not sure. Are you happy if you lose the bishop pair here? Probably not.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about it myself. Maybe the idea is to go king f8 here, and
I'm assuming, yeah. This is probably the way to go for this.
And yeah, I don't dislike black's position, but I feel like you're giving up something, because now they're going to go, bishop e3 castles, and their position is a little bit more natural than yours.
Yeah, I don't think you needed to do this, because this wasn't really a threat. I mean, there's queen c7, and then you're getting counterplay. Like if black just castles in this position, I think, yeah, you don't even need to worry about that. If you really are worried about this pawn, you could play a move like queen c7 right now, but. Yeah, either way. But instead she plays queen 3, which is a double attack, but it's a double attack that has a pretty straightforward response. So I mean, the threat is mate and the rook, but the response is bishop e6.
Yep, which is obviously played.
Yeah, but now, okay, so maybe this is White's idea is, oh, I'm going to win a pawn here, but this is going to come at a cost for sure.
Yeah, I don't even see a way to win a pawn here.
Well, she wins a pawn this way, but yeah, this is
But this looks. I mean, I think you're technically winning a pawn.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm not.
No, I mean this is a good example of a pawn is not always a pawn. Like this is this is a very you're gonna, because white has no control over the light squares with a light squared bishop. If black can just stop white from castling, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen here, it's going to be really hard for white not to get blown off the board.
Yeah.
So king f8, this is all happening here. So takes, rook c8, queen b4.
Maybe not even the right square. I think maybe to a6 is more principled. But
I think I would take a7 but that's only because I'm realizing that I need to get a lot of material or I'm dead. Like
yeah.
I would just take the pawn and pray basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so queen b4, because it doesn't really matter. You can't contest the light squares, and so Jacob does exactly what I think makes the most sense here, and just takes the knight.
Yeah, and this looks devastating. Honestly, I don't see it.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm a little curious because I do think that it's not over yet.
No, bishop c4 I think is maybe a little bit more called for than queen to d3, because after queen d3 moves like, you know, queen d4 almost force a trade, or maybe a waste of a move by black.
Yeah, weirdly, yeah, you got to stop white from castling. This is not that straightforward yet, just because of the bishop h6 stuff, and there is counterplay, and white can get a rook to the d file. So
well, here's the thing. What if, okay, bishop c4? What do you play against this?
Well, I assume you check and then play rook d1. So
sure.
Here, and then the king goes here, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
And then rook d1.
And then I was thinking of queen c7 here, hitting the pawn, but maybe you have f4 or something.
Yeah, f4.
And maybe you're okay. Yeah, so maybe
I don't know. Yeah, maybe not okay, but the reason I'm pausing here is because this is a really critical kind of how you do this. And queen d3 does make some sense that you at least get a bailout of, like, you can always take c3, but I'm not sure this is. I don't know. I'd be very curious if this is actually much better for black.
Yeah, and now maybe you go something like bishop h6.
You have to go bishop h6, and
then
I almost had to play rook d1. She plays rook c1, and I just think that's the mistake here.
Yeah, that's a little too greedy.
Yeah, you just got to give it up. You got to give it up. There's no way you're gonna hold on that way. Yeah, there's just no way. You have to just recognize that, like, the light squares are so problematic here. That and you can't castle. So like rook c1, like, yeah, you hold on the pawn. Or so for example, if you play rook d1, you're maybe just forcing this position, but this is, you castle, and I mean, now white's better. I mean, if anyone's better, white's better, because black can't castle. And you might be worried about losing a pawn or something, but it's the same like thing. It's like all that matters is activity right now. Like you're not going to be any worse there.
Yeah, I agree. This is I think probably the only move that's not losing. Maybe queen d4, but I mean rook c1 is definitely too slow. You need
queen d4 is the same idea. You're giving up this. It's just that you don't get a rook on d1 at the end of it. So I guess that's the way. If you don't even want to worry about losing a2, you just play queen d4. You trade this way, and then you castle, and you say okay.
Yeah, and of course, you know, black is I believe higher rated, so they're not going to trade. They'll try something like queen to a6. But after queen to a6, there's a lot more breathing room around your king, and you shouldn't be so worried at that point. Just
right. I mean, yeah, I think it's still a game for sure. So rook c1, bishop c4. Yeah, now it's just Now all the alarm bells. Oh, she does have a nice little tactic here, doesn't she, just to survive. So queen a4 forces bishop b5.
Yes.
That's nice because you can't go queen d8 or king d8 because of rook d1.
Yep.
So that's a nice saving grace. So she doesn't lose immediately. And then queen c2 to defend.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Queen c4.
Good, but it is still not looking very appetizing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, none of the problems have really been solved. Well, the problem of getting mated immediately has been solved, but everything else is still a problem. And the moment that this rook gets into the game, it's going to be trouble again. So, yeah. So she plays f4 here. I suspect again you want to give up this pawn, but now it is a little worse still because the bishop is still cutting your king off. You'd have a weird position if you were to play like rook d1, where if they do play queen takes c3, both of your kings are cut off weirdly.
One plan you might want to consider is going after here bishop e3 and then going pawn to f3 to play king f2. That might be a plan because you need some shelter for your king, and you might even go bishop e3 and then put your bishop on d4 so the queen can't get in. In fact, after you do this maneuver, bishop e3, I don't know what you do as black. I don't see how you stop bishop d4, and maybe you're even slightly for choice.
Yeah, I think this is totally possible that white might end up being a bit better here with best play. But yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out that you can't play f3 first because that's the more natural thing because of this queen h4 check winning the bishop. So,
which is probably why we saw this f4 move, but. Yeah. At the same time, you have already dealt with the mate threat, so there's not really anything concrete. So if there's nothing concrete, you might have a move or two to figure it out. Because black can't castle. They already moved their king, so they're not going to be activating their rook. So all you have to do is activate your rook and make sure you're not being mated, and you might even, win this.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly possible that white could be a little better there, but I given this battery with the queen and bishop and the light squares, I would in any sort of quick time control, I would auto play a move like rook d1 and just give it up and say, hey, I'm not worse.
Yep.
And that's probably just a instinct and experience kind of thing. I've just lost enough games to this stuff to not want to deal with it. So although I just noticed that there is this bishop a4, so actually rook d1 maybe isn't. I think your idea of bishop e3 is actually probably the right idea. So,
yeah, I mean rook d1 is scary because of bishop a4. I guess
it just runs into that one idea. Yeah, it's principally fine. Probably rook b1 maybe then, but like still, it's either way. Bishop e3 is the most straightforward way. So this game actually ends up finishing very quickly after this because rook d8. Already things like the problem now for white is it's just kind of hard to suggest a plan. You've kind of cut off your own bishop from defending.
Yep.
And now it's just trouble. I mean, it makes it again, like the idea of moving king f2, yes, if you had the right shelter, but here it just doesn't work. So
yeah, you don't have the pawns to protect you. And now you got to go king g3, and this is getting scary.
Well, yeah, king g3 is the only way to stay alive for a few moves, but she ends up playing king back and just losing.
Yeah.
So,
which just comes into check,
yeah. So yeah, I think there's the lessons from here are about color complexes mostly. It's just this is a classic kind of opposite color bishops in the opening / middle game. They are strong attacking when you have opposite color bishops.
Yeah. And one other thing to note is, generally speaking, since you're one move away from castling, you can usually get away with a few extra moves. That's just on principle. You're allowed to do that if you're one move away from castling. But if the center is about to break open, you can't be castling. And because black had this plan of opening up the center by doing bishop takes knight, you should probably be castling before you go pawn hunting. Just be principled, and bad things don't end up happening when you play principled solid chess.
Sounds good. Do you want to hop to the top board, or do you want to go up 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? How do you want to do it?
We can start with the top. Nathan Hoover versus Ethan Hunt, 2 national masters. I've faced them both. They're both very strong players.
Yep.
So you start out Ethan playing the English. I don't know if I've seen him play the English before. So I'm actually curious.
Transposes to a Queen's Gambit. So
yeah. Okay. He's played plenty of these positions.
This is very classical stuff.
Yep.
Queen knight b7, rook c1, b6. So this is the Tartakower, right? Or is this the Tartakower? I don't even remember the names of these things. Irrelevant. It's people play. One of the moves that people play.
Yeah, I've played this before. You do have to be a little bit more careful as black because you can start getting some holes especially on your c6 square. But as long as you know the line, it should be okay.
Yeah. 5 takes, bishop d3, bishop e7, castles. This is all the most common stuff. Rook e8 is not the most common move. I don't know the ins and outs of this line enough to know like the subtle stuff here, but I'm assuming rook e8, the idea is you're wanting to play knight f8 at some point to kind of hold your king side together.
Yeah, Nate has actually played something like this against me where I had the white pieces. It wasn't this exact position, but if I remember, I think he went just because of tactics in our game, bishop f8. But yeah, the idea is always to open up this rook, not necessarily by going bishop f8. It could be because of something like bishop d6. But he likes playing with this activity, and it's very principled. It's hard to show anything wrong unless maybe you're a computer. So I like this plan, even though it's not most popular. C5, I think, is what you expect. And I know Ethan is very booked up on a lot of these types of openings. So it could just be Nathan saying, you know what, my opponent has used almost no time. He's used 5 minutes for this entire game so far. Let me get him out of book.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's see what happens. This is a kind of a typical maneuver in some of these positions where you're trying to get your the bishop queen light square battery. This is apparently the theme of the night, is we're going to have light squared bishop and queen batteries. And then yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, this is, I think, very reminiscent of a game that I saw Ethan play Nate against last week. And Ethan had this really pretty queen sack, or not queen sack, or the bishop in the pawn, but he had queen g6, and I think he did this twice. So Nathan is probably going to be a little bit more wary of his king in this game because, like I said, 2 months ago, I think Nathan lost to Ethan in a very similar position, and it's feeling like a close pawn structure to that game.
Yeah. So knight f8. Playing very defensively here. And I think what Ethan's doing here makes a lot of sense. Is if there's a way to take advantage of this kind of thing, it would be essentially that you're going to put your pieces on these good squares. Like this knight just is no longer contesting e5, so put a knight on e5, and then I'm assuming f4 coming at some point will be a nice solid response, or a nice forward. Just
next move, I would expect f4 because there's nothing stopping you from getting this outpost, and this is all these stone wall structures are really hard to play against.
And this is a very good one, I think, for white, because you're a lot of times there's something contesting that square, like you can either trade that piece off right away, or there's some way for a pawn to undermine it. But right now, that knight is going to be a king for a while. So, so c6, yes, this is very passive, and the way to if a full-on kingside assault is going to work, it's going to work against something like this, where black has just played very solid moves but kind of passive moves.
Yeah.
f4, rook c8, queen b3 is an interesting move. I wonder if I wonder what the like. It feels like there's a concrete idea with queen b3, but I don't know what it is.
I'm not really a fan of it. I'm gonna be honest. It feels like your queen is on the wrong side of the board. I much preferred something like queen f3 or like queen e2, just keeping her in the action, or maybe even something like rook to f3 was something I would have considered. But I'm
Well, yeah, I was kind of wondering, like, so I mean, queen d3 makes a lot of sense if you're gonna want to connect the rooks and just create pressure. Of course, you're a long ways from ever launching anything over here, but my thought on how I would do this, if you just give me a bunch of moves, would be queen d3, g4, probably king h1, rook g1, g5, start putting things on the g file, and I don't know, eventually made them. So I don't know. There are other ways you could approach this, but and that's not necessarily the right approach, but you're not committed to any of that either. The other approach I'd consider here with white would be something like a3 and b4, and try to take advantage of the fact that c5 hasn't been played and just try to lock things down here and say, okay, black is passive. I'm going to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze.
Yeah,
and I think
that is the very positional solid way to play. I know I faced some IM in a blitz game, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and they had a similar position. I had black, and they ended up beating me with, I think it was like bishop f6, queen h5 in this position, because they argued, you know, the only real defender of or attacker and defender is your knight on f6. So if you eliminate it, maybe you have some more attacking chances as well. That was just an interesting idea. I checked with an engine. It was not objectively best, but it was practically very hard to place, especially when I was playing some faster time controls.
Yeah, and right here, this knight on f8 is doing really good defensive work. So stuff like that I don't think is going to work, in part because, like, if you were to play something like bishop takes f6, bishop takes queen h5, the rook can actually lift to c7, and that's a really nice little subtlety with that rook now. So, but yeah, I mean, there's lots of ideas here. So queen b3 was played, and he might have an idea here that we haven't seen yet. So we'll see. So Nate lifts his rook, and then rook cd1. Okay, so this is idea. So I think I'm starting to understand what white's after here. He's actually looking to play e4, probably bishop takes and then e4. So a position like this. So let's just say there's black plays a5 here. White responds with bishop takes, pawn takes, e4, and then is trying to kind of create all sorts of just openings. I'm not actually sure this actually threatens much.
No, I don't really like this idea. I feel like you're helping black develop their light squared bishop with this. And for those watching, the move a5 is just an example move. It's saying we're passing. You recognize it's hanging the b6 pawn. We're just saying, you know, if we
sorry, I didn't notice that.
I understand. We were just trying to pass a move. We're just, for people commentating later going, you know, why can't we go queen takes b6? You can, it's probably best, but our point is we push it back to white. It's their move. King h8 was just, it's the same type of move. It's just,
that one drops f7, so everything drops something. So
but we're trying to show, like, you know, if it's white's move, this is maybe their idea. And yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with you. I feel like this is not what we want to do, because, like I said, it's helping this bishop on b7 develop just for free. Because I mean, black is going to eventually play c5 and try and create some break like that. That's really the only play that I see. So you're just, I think, assisting black with this plan to break up the entire center completely. And it's just, it feels like something I would want to avoid. Now, immediately, like, if we go e5, you can't go pawn takes. And so maybe even here, let's say somehow you triangulate it or something. Like, let's say we play knight to h7. I don't know.
Like this knight, Knight
Yeah.
f6.
Okay. Yeah. This knight is maybe okay. And then you would trade bishops, and I don't know. No, I wouldn't even trade bishops. Let's say we do the other knight, just for the sake of argument here. The other knight, like in this position, I think you can go e4 right away because you can't go pawn takes. Pawn takes just doesn't tactically work because your f pawn is hanging and the knight is also hitting it with the queen. So maybe that's his concept, and then he's going to go.
No, but I think knight takes is pretty strong here, actually, or at least it's.
No, I think this loses because after knight takes, knight you're down.
What? Okay,
This is hanging.
takes,
The bishop's hanging.
Here. No, okay. I still go knight takes, knight, you take, and then I go g3, right? And this looks pretty good. Now you gotta. Okay, yeah. This is maybe not as strong as I thought.
Yeah. I mean, conversely, my other thought here is that as we're trying to find like nothing moves for black, I'm realizing it's kind of hard to play like anything with black here. So maybe white can just shuffle and slowly improve. And
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so, maybe the move like knight h7 is called for here, which is not a move I want to play, but maybe it's a necessary evil.
Yeah, or I mean, I don't know exactly what black should play here. I think this is one of the challenges of slightly passive positions is you just something like this and just trying to trade a set of pieces off does make some sense maybe. So.
Yeah.
But okay, let's come back to this game because we got a few others to get to, and this one will be going for a while, I think. So we got Thomas Babcock and Eddie Wasserman.
Okay, Eddie is the black pieces. Thomas almost always plays e4. Every game I've faced against him, he plays e4. So this is definitely something he's comfortable with.
Hey, we're finally in an opening. I think 3 weeks of me doing this, finally in an opening that I know something about. All right, so e6, f4, bishop e7, queen f3.
Yeah, they're both playing mainline moves, so they clearly.
Yeah, I'm zooming through this. This is the absolute main line here.
Yep.
So.
And Eddie is known to think right out of the opening, and he is up 2 minutes from the starting time. So this is clearly stuff everyone here has seen before.
Yeah. So this is a classic a position that Andrew and I have had this position a bunch of times, and I've started playing bishop h4 exclusively here, and that is a wild one. It's wild, and in fact it looks like it's a super huge positional mistake because like you allow g5 with tempo, but then you play e5, and this is fun. I know the theory about 20 moves from here, so like we're not going to go into that, but like that's a thing. And Andrew and I have played a bunch of games in that, and it's kind of fun. So anyway, bishop takes f6 is the more like classic and popular move, but bishop h4 is also quite playable.
Yes.
And not only is it playable, it's not like an immediate draw either. Like with some of these lines that are secondary lines, the problem is if your opponent knows like the next 10 moves of theory, it's just a draw. But bishop h4 is not one of them. You can actually play on for a long time. So so bishop takes f6 is still the most popular move. Yep.
And then I believe bishop f6. Yep. Thomas has played this before several times.
Yeah, h4 is definitely the move here though. I mean bishop g2 is perfectly solid, but this is one of those positions where you do need to kind of act as white because you've already given up a bishop pair, and I don't know. Well, it's just one of those positions that I know pretty well again, and so like I know the importance of moving quickly here.
Bishop g2 does feel a little slow. I'm not even sure I fully understand the point of bishop g2. Maybe it's trying to prevent b5 because now, before if we went b5, we did not have e4 because we had bishop b7. Now we don't have that. Maybe that's the concept. But I don't think we were going to go something like b5 in this position.
No, the way to play this is h4 and play for g5 as fast as possible. And this is very theoretical. There's a lot here. And one of the ideas is you play g5, and then if the bishop retreats, you play g6, and you really just try to break things open because the e6 pawn ends up being weak, and those are kind of some concepts here. So bishop g2, not a mistake, but it's definitely not the most challenging move.
Knight b6. I think that makes some good sense, bringing the rooks to the center. I do think that black still needs to be careful, but I don't think it's...
This is by no means is this venomless or anything like that. And there are certainly like consistent threats you need to be aware of here. Like in some positions, and not necessarily here, but like there's knight b5 stuff sometimes because you can get it with tempo and then take on d6 and get a check. Doesn't work right now, but like there's always things here. So
I think this is actually a line I've seen Eddie play before when I faced him in a blitz match. So I think Eddie in this position is maybe still familiar with some of the concepts.
Yeah.
Because I think black is playing this tremendously well.
Well, he's played all the natural moves, and he's just said, okay, bishop g2 and rook e1 isn't really anything I need to worry about compared to the main line. So, so e5 takes, bishop to e. So black just takes a pawn here. He says, I'm not afraid, which...
I mean, if you concretely calculate it, I guess there's nothing to fear.
Yeah, it's either he's either right or he's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably take here because you're going to lose this b7 pawn, so you got to get some compensation.
Well, you have bishop g5 check, so you can play bishop g5 and then you could play bishop c6. Well, maybe not.
And so I don't see how to defend this pawn. Maybe some rook b8, but I don't really want to castle onto the king side.
Yeah, I mean, my intuition says I'm not worried about this. I would play like knight c4 here and just say, hey, whatever. Opening up the b file feels okay for me. So, but I don't know. There's so much like, this is just pure calculation at this point, whether you can take this pawn or not. And if you can take it, take it. Oh. And he does just take on b7. So
yeah, I think pretty much the only move, and then probably queen b7, bishop b7, bishop f4 looks most natural.
Yeah, well, queen takes b7 is definitely the most straightforward thing. There's a lot of ideas. They probably just don't work, but like I'm always, whenever anything stays open on the e file with a king in the center, I'm always looking at moves like knight f5. I don't think it works here.
Yeah,
but
this looks a little bit too much.
Yeah, if you had a way to defend this and you could just play pawn takes, rook takes, and then like win the queen back or something, it would be good.
Well, even castles here might work. I don't even know if you need to take.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the other question: is do you even have like is there something that's pressing that you need to take this? So it probably doesn't work. But those are the other kind of options in a position like this. The other kind of option would be whether checking whether something like this works, where you take and then you take here. But I don't think that works here because I think rook b8 holds everything together.
Yeah, I think you're right. This is not quite enough. Not that I'm seeing, at least.
Yeah. So, yeah, they spent very little time here, which that if that's my one, and maybe one or both of them are familiar with this position or something very analogous to it, but I would spend a lot of time in this position as whites, and maybe too much time, but I'm surprised to see only 2 minutes come off the clock there.
Yeah. Well, Thomas is a very safe player. He does not like taking risks. I have been in several positions against Thomas where, he was better if he sacked a pawn and went for it, but he very happily took a draw. Even though, I'd sacked a piece earlier, he was thinking, this is the way not to lose. And not losing is a very good way to score well. So I think that's just kind of what he's going for in these types of positions. He goes, I'm down a pawn. I can't be worse if I take this pawn back. Maybe I have some concrete sack mate, but what if I miss a single move? And that's, I think, very much his philosophy.
Yeah. I think queen takes b7 is totally reasonable too. So let's see. So queen takes, bishop f4 check.
Yep.
And then a rook a7.
Yeah. We'll see if Eddie gets greedy and grabs this H pawn, because I think you might be able to get away after the bishop moves with bishop takes H2.
Yep.
And now black might even argue they're better because I have an extra pawn and I have the bishop pair. Because even though it looks a little awkward for your pieces, I don't see anything concrete. So after bishop H2, yeah, bishop H2 is played. Yeah, white might just be worse in this position. Very suddenly worse, because it felt like white had some decent attacking chances, but now I don't see anything.
Yeah, all of this was very like forced from the queen trade. So yeah, let's see what white comes up with here. So he just okay. Doesn't look like he had anything really in mind here. So it's just gonna be down a pawn.
Yeah, and that's perfectly playable, but now black is the only one who's playing for a win.
Yeah. Well, I'd say that if white needed to come up with something earlier, because this is down a pawn and a bishop pair and like this huge kingside majority. This is pretty bad, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. No, this is not a position you want to get against Eddie. Eddie is really good with handling up a pawn with bishop pair. He's really good with activity, and that's all you get with the bishop pair. So I would be a little afraid here. I'm not even sure.
I don't know what you there's no like obvious way to go for counterplay for white either. Like let's just
and he's gonna go something like, I don't know, knight c4 and like bishop, I don't know, maybe bishop c8, bishop b7, something like that, just to trade. But yeah, this is not a position I want to play, because once black mobilizes all of his pieces, it's going to be over. And it looks like he might even be winning another pawn.
Knight
b3, and I was thinking, a5, a4, but it doesn't quite.
Well, yeah, actually 95 now. Yeah, this gets sketchy pretty quickly for white.
Yeah. So it might be losing an exchange.
Yeah, well, you got rook d4, so that does keep you alive, I think, but everything's very tenuous and
very shaky for sure.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just kind of zooming through this, seeing if anything changes in anything here, because otherwise these are pretty normal looking moves. A5, he just gives. He can't get you. Okay, so you can't.
The knight hangs, and maybe show the viewers this, because that is a good tactic.
Yeah. Sorry, my internet is hopping in and out here on this. So there we go. So that's the tactic you have to watch out for.
Yep, and note that we can't take because the pawn is pinned for some of our newer chess players.
Yeah. So this is a pin here they can't take.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So rook a6.
Yeah. Knight back. This is brutal.
So now one of the threats, there's probably several threats here for black, but one of them is actually to take knight takes a3, because once you take back with the pawn, then the rook falls or the knight falls there. So that's maybe a pawn winning threat, but there's even other threats here with things. I mean, it just looks quite.
Yeah, a4 might be another threat.
A4 could be a threat.
In concept with knight a3, and now it's a pin. So it's just, there's so many things you have to look for. I would not be surprised if Thomas in the next like 5 or 6 moves just ends up blundering something. And
yeah. I mean, it's just a tough position, and Eddie's doing really well. And again, we have an opposite colored bishop position where he's using. So this isn't technically an opposite color bishop position. This is a position where there's an unopposed bishop. So this is just a dark squared bishop that white does not have a dark squared bishop. And Eddie's just using it really well here now, putting it on this good diagonal. And this is what white. I don't think this position is even remotely holdable over the next few moves. I think it'll be over very quickly.
I agree with you. It may be a 1 pawn deficit, but the problem is your piece coordination is just not there.
Yeah. There's knight takes g2 or knight takes b2 even is very tempting right now. I think it works, but there's probably better moves even. But
he
plays it. So we're gonna get to see it anyway. And he doubles the rooks, but I was thinking you just play a4 here. But maybe doubling the rooks is even more vicious because you can't actually defend this again.
Yeah, and obviously Eddie did a lot more calculation than we did. So
right, yeah.
Objectively better than what we found. But even a4 in that last position, and we're clearly better. Maybe Eddie was afraid of like king a2 or something. I don't know what he was afraid of. King h2 doesn't even work. This is what I would have played because I still see the c knight as pinned, and I don't actually see how you don't lose both knights.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think you might lose both knights here. There is rook a8 actually. Maybe that's a good resource here.
Yeah, maybe this is what Eddie was looking at. And
and actually I think this is a real, if this is the reason he didn't play this, this is probably a really smart move, because you can get into a situation here, we're just looking at like the most straightforward stuff, where, okay, you've won a pawn, but now white has unopposed passed pawns, and you don't want to give him this kind of counterplay. So I actually think I like his move better than my suggestion. So
yeah, I'm in agreement with you here. They might still have this same move, but it doesn't quite work because you go rook takes and then okay. So no, this is probably just very, very clean. I
still think white probably does have to play like rook a8 here, but it's
rook a8 works tactically though, so I think that it's maybe, I mean to save the piece. So I think it's very bad.
Yeah. Okay, so we've caught up on this one. Let's head down to board 3. This was Jordan Tim versus Serafima Sokolovskaya. D4.
Jordan always plays the Jobava London, so I think knight to c6 is maybe a surprise to him. He's very used to d4 and knight f6, so he may already be slightly out of his opening prep after this. Honestly, a very shocking move. I've never seen this in competitive play before. I know it's been played. I just have never seen it.
Yeah. This does not surprise me from Serafima, actually. I know her a little bit, and I could see this being interesting. So, okay, he plays e4, which totally reasonable. All right, e5, d5. Okay. This is a common type of structure in some offbeat weird stuff like this. And if white knows what they're doing, if white has a few accurate moves, they're usually a bit better. But that said, you don't get a lot of practice in it. So knight c3, knight g6, knight f3. Okay. So I think that, the one way that black ever feels really comfortable is if they get in d6 and f5. And so I usually, and there's a few different ways to play this, but I try to spend a lot of my time and energy making that impossible. So there's a lot of ways to play against this. Obviously, but and it's not like if white plays natural moves, it's not like white's ever going to be worse here. But one of the ways that I like to play this is to play something like bishop e3 and just stop this from ever happening. And if you ever play knight f4, I'm just going to trade it off, and that's fine. You've spent so much time to do this. So I've even played stuff like this and played knight e2 and just said, I'm in a castle. You're never getting your pieces out. But there's a variety of ways to play this, actually. So Jordan just plays normal moves, which is totally fine. Bishop c5.
Chris was saying with this opening, he likes transposing to center game line because Chris, if you didn't know, used to main center game. I think he's been moving away from that for a little bit. It gives, and to his point, it gives a lot of options to white on what to pick as an opening. So if you're going to play what Serafima did here, you need to have a lot of preparation, a lot of lines, which is probably why it's not played so often with this knight c6 move.
Right. I mean, white's objectively going to be better in all these openings. It's just a question of how offbeat and how uncomfortable you're going to make your opponent. H4.
Very aggressive. I liked it.
Yep. H5.
Very nice.
Bishop G5.
F6.
Yep. Bishop C1. And I mean, this is a totally classic way to do this kind of approach is provoke F6, get back to C1 and say, hey, this is advantage me because you can't ever move that pawn back.
Yep.
Totally like that. Now I think you probably want to stop Yeah, I think I'd prefer bishop d3 here for the simple reason that I want to stop, or at least make f5 a little challenging. But I get bishop e2, you're actually going after this pawn, so maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. I like your positional clamp, but at the same time, yeah, black has a few moves. They can maybe consolidate. So
yeah, I'd be tempted as black to play like knight f8 and g6 here and say, at least you're not you don't have a target anymore. But no, she just goes for much more sensible stuff. Bishop g4.
Yeah, and all of a sudden I don't dislike black so much anymore. I'm a little surprised. It feels like they have a very solid clamp on this center, so it's not like anything's opening up. And now this f6 move maybe even stops some aggressive knight jumps in the future. So maybe this bishop g5, bishop back to c1 needs to have a more concrete follow-up before we play it.
Yeah. And it's worth noting that, like, I think some of the time you, if you're white, you want to just start launching on the king side here, but this doesn't really work here. In fact, there's like, if you play knight h2, for example, she can trade and she might even be able to take this pawn. But even if she doesn't want to take this pawn, well, we probably can take the pawn. But like g4, it would be white's idea. Well, black can also just play queen d7 and castle queen side. So it's not like she's committed to being on the king side.
Yeah, exactly. And black has a lot of flexibility here. So I think this is quite hard to play. Of course, after bishop here, Jordan is an aggressive player. So he wants to get this bishop pair and maybe try to attack. Very, very much Jordan style move.
Yeah, he's looking for the bishop pair here. So.
Yeah. But of course, yeah, we don't have to give it without you getting your own weaknesses. So Sofima very wisely, in my opinion, gives this check first. Instead of going bishop b6, which looks natural, we can get basically the same position. But now, we're going to force white's king to go to the king side, and we have a little bit more knowledge of where we want to attack in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not clear on whether like forcing c3 and b4 is good or not, but it's an interesting approach because yeah, you're saying, okay, well now you moved king pawns in front of your queen side, and now I know where you're going to castle. So
I conceptually like this idea because both knights are already on the king side, but the engine might laugh at both of us and say, play, I don't know. No, bishop b6 is really the only other move. I was trying to think maybe like knight e7, knight a7, but that pawn structure just feels a little bit too loose for that to be playable.
Yeah. I think this is. I probably would have just played bishop b6, but I think it's interesting to provoke those pawns and then get back there. So
yeah.
All right.
I'm actually a little surprised that we saw Jordan taking. I thought he might try to do something else here because there is no rush. So maybe like a queen c2 or castles first could be called. Well, not castles, I guess, because your h pawn hangs.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. Is he doesn't? It's not clear what his plan is then.
Yeah, maybe you go g3 to stop any knight g4, and then you go bring your bishop in somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. Could be g3. All right. Well, let's see. So a takes. Now g3. Yeah. If he was going to play g3, he probably could have waited. Knight 87. All right. a4. Yeah. It's pretty clear that like if it's just trying to get pawns going on the queen side, that black's position is very solid then, and like black can actually f5's coming at some point. Like,
yeah,
it is more. It's a reality. I'm like, interesting.
Yeah, and a4. I think I might have even tried a3 here. just because now the bishop holds it and you hold the bishop on that square and maybe you activate the rook somehow. Because a4, now we're saying, we're going a5, but that doesn't really, that's not scaring me because my pawns are doubled and that'll just help me undouble them. At the very least, positionally speaking, I don't see anything concrete.
Yeah, and I think black's very happy to go king side in a lot of positions at this point. At the right moment, of course, because like there is h5 is still potentially weak, but
yep.
But yeah. Conversely, she actually plays c6 here, which also is very interesting because like black's ready to put a lot of pawns in the center. So yeah, white has to. This is double-edged for sure.
Yeah, I actually really like this c6 move. It almost forces, I think, c4. But then after c4, you go c5. And all of a sudden, I'm very happy because you can't really go b5 because you have this permanent weakness on h4 then. So it's just...
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to play c4 here. You could play pawn takes pawn and go for maybe try to get a past a pawn eventually, but you are giving up the center. So c4 is the natural move, and that is what's played here. So
she plays c5.
Yeah, c5 right away, huh? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. It's interesting because I mean, she's locking things up, and it doesn't makes sense with the knights, and she is putting all of her pawns on dark squares with a light square bishop, which positionally makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and now something like b takes c, I think, is the only super principled play. Maybe you have something like bishop b2, but it's...
Yeah, I think he goes for a tactical approach here, which is interesting. He plays bishop a3, and I mean, at first blush, this doesn't seem to do much, but I think his idea is to play a5 at some point here.
But after queen d7.
Okay, so that's what's played.
a5, maybe?
Yeah, he plays a5 here. So this is what happens in the game.
Maybe just castle.
Yeah, she sort of has. Maybe she doesn't have to react, but this is like taking here is a real thing. So AB6 is definitely a possibility.
I maybe just don't believe it so much, but it is a move technically.
Yeah. So she plays CB. Okay. Bishop takes.
And then she takes here.
And then she takes. Yeah, this gets wild really quickly. And actually, like,
I would castle here as well.
Play c5.
Maybe not castles because you have b6. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's trying to rip things open here very quickly. Which bishop pair, unopposed dark square bishop. Man, the theme of the day is unopposed bishops. This is a lot different than some of those other positions we saw, though, because her pieces still make sense. The squares that they're on, and now she's up a pawn too.
I don't really like this approach by Jordan. I think only black can be better here because black is a safer king right now. And let's say we do see d takes, c, then bishop takes. We can just castle, and I don't see any threats.
Yeah, this is what happens in the game, and
yes.
I mean, white has some compensation for sure for the pawn. You've got a bishop pair, and also these pawns. This sort of reminds me of almost not structurally like a Benko gambit, but just the idea that you have these the extra pawns. They're A and B pawns, but they're on open files, and white's going to be able to attack them. That kind of idea is familiar, but yeah, in this position, black's up a pawn, so that matters.
Yeah, I saw someone say in the chat, bishop takes f3 might be good for black. Maybe it's playable. Maybe the computer says it's best, but bishop takes f3, I'm always hesitant to play it as the black pieces because I don't like giving up the bishop pair, and then we can't really castle if we do that because the h pawn will be a little questionable. And then someone saying black does not have a safer king. Maybe. I think we're safe because the E pawn in the center is holding it. But I mean, yeah, there's obviously attacking potential. I don't see a concrete way to get to the king. That's why I said I think they have a safer king, because we have two knights around it. We have the bishop, and I don't see how white is going to be attacking the king side long term. Although, of course, the engine might find something more concrete just to show,
Well,
not seeing.
I also think that Black's position is very scary. Like I do think that these two bishops in particular, like the move that keeps crying out to me after castles is queen b3. I don't know, like in the particulars of the position. Obviously, like you're something like this eventually, but that's not even really my thought. My thought is I want to play like bishop b5, and then there's a possibility that I can maintain this bishop pair. And these bishops are controlling a lot of squares, and then I can reroute my knight to h2 or whatever after that, because I'm not even concerned about winning the pawn back if I'm white right now. I just want to keep the pressure up. These knights are tied to one another, so yeah, that's where I would look for counterplay if I'm white, I think. But
yeah, I think there's venom. I'm not seeing concrete lines, which is why I'm thinking it's probably okay, but it does seem incredibly unpleasant here. And one
of the things to think about when you're like evaluating a position like this, bishop pair, for people who calculate with, are very number oriented, like computers will say a bishop pair is worth a half a pawn against a bishop and knight, and then you have open files that you're working against these pawns, and that might be worth something. White has a central majority, which is worth something. So you can start to argue like, well, these little advantages actually maybe do equal a pawn here, and maybe this position is technically full compensation for white. But we're only talking about compensation. We're not saying white's better. We're just saying that there's definite possibilities for white here. So anyway, Jordan's approach was to play knight h2. Which is based on some concrete things with h5, I think. So let's see how
it's a little passive. I actually liked Jordan's position before this knight h2 move, just because of the play. Now, like I said, I think Serafima probably could have, held it if she's playing some computer moves. But once you go here, I'm not seeing the plan.
Well, the plan I think is to get at h5, but yeah, let's see how it goes. Because okay, so bishop takes, queen takes, and now rook fc8. Yeah. Interesting.
And now I would actually say black is better because you no longer have this bishop pair. And, you may be taking on h5, but unless there's like a concrete attack pretty quickly, these two passed pawns are looking scary.
Yeah, I do think that's true. That this would be, yeah. And so he plays bishop takes e7 here. I was kind of wondering, like, yeah, the problem with playing a move like bishop a3 is that, like, man, b5, b4 actually comes pretty quickly here. And, yeah, those passed pawns are scary, so this makes some sense. So takes, queen takes. Not my gut instinct, but I guess the idea is you're getting queen b4 check. So
yeah.
So castles. And so now white is going to get this pawn back here on h5, but in the meantime, these passed pawns on the queen side are going to be moving, and this knight on h2 is now pretty far away. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at moves like, I don't know, knight f8 or queen f7 here, and then like just to for prophylaxis against queen takes h5 so once the queen moves, then I have this b5, b4, b3, whatever moves, and it's just looking like the pawns are really fast here. Maybe even queen to e8 to support the push right away. I don't see it play.
Yep, I think all of those look promising. So Queen of 7 is the one that Seraphima chose.
Yep.
Queen takes, and then b5.
Yep.
Queen f5 makes a lot of sense.
I like the play, very aggressive.
Yeah, it feels like you're going to have to get some kind of pressure here, or else, I mean, one of the ideas here I think could be that if you play h5, the knight goes back to e7, you can play queen d7 and get your queen back behind and kind of use that attack, defend by attacking kind of mentality.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, we see here right away by choice, which is actually quite interesting because now I think queen d7 is maybe
yeah.
And now we see b4. I think very strong move. And then Jordan goes f4 here, which seems not like I would have played, but more that I look at it, I don't see anything wrong with it. It just positionally, it feels suspicious to open your king when the queens are on, but at the same time, you have to do something against these passed pawns, and why not do a kingside attack?
Right. Well, you definitely need to deal with the passed pawns. The question is whether you can attempt to deal with them with pieces, or if you need to open up some kind of counterplay to if you have any hope of stopping it. F4 is definitely an approach. The other approach would be, well, there's maybe a few different approaches. You could go passively somewhat and play rook fb1 here, with the idea that it's maybe not so easy. It's not like she can just lift this rook, because then maybe you have something with this pin here. So you're stopping the pawns from advancing any further. F4. The other idea is getting this knight into the game. If you can figure out something like knight g4 to e3, might be too slow, but that would be the other approach. I think those would be the few approaches here.
Yeah.
So f4 opens things up this way. Pawn takes, rook takes. And this is the point, though, that you have to appreciate, is that black can actually force the queens off the board now. And that might spell a lot of trouble for white. And she does. And I think this is just a very experienced take on this kind of position. It's just recognizing that those passed pawns are really strong. White's queen is one of the big defenders of them, and knight g6 just forces the queens off.
Yeah, this is a very, very safe, very responsible move. Just no nonsense. I'm better in this endgame. Why wouldn't I trade?
Right, and it's not just trading down. It's getting rid of the biggest attacking piece in the position, and suddenly you've made it just exclusively about whether the pawn structure and the rooks in the endgame. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is just winning now for black, honestly. So
yeah, it might be a minus, almost a full knight, maybe, actually.
Well, it's hard to say, but it definitely feels like the kind of position that might just there might not be anything the white can do after this. But we'll see. Takes, retreats, b3.
Yeah.
And now tries to get the knight in, king e7. Rook a4. Now this is principally exactly what you want to do, is stop that piece from those pawns from advancing any further. But b2 is scary, or b2, excuse me, and that's what she plays. So
yeah, knight d2 is not the only play, but it's now you have this e5 square for your knight, and you're going to hop in and protect. It's just this is trouble. Knight e5 is coming. Also, there's possibilities. I mean, you have to be looking at rook c2, rook c1 here. So yeah, but knight e5 again, just improve the pieces. Knight b1 is how he's going to try to blockade this, but it's going to be, I think, pretty tricky for white to actually ever gang up on this pawn now. Yeah, I think it's beyond defendable at this point. It's just you're losing material.
Rook c1, rook a2 now going after that pawn, but you can just defend it. Yeah, this is just straightforward now. Yeah, and there's a attempt at a tactic here, and actually this is a pretty good attempt. So maybe black shouldn't have allowed this, but it interesting. So did she just miss that?
I don't think it matters. You still have a3 now.
You do, but you just gave. you're allowing white to give up the knight for 2 pawns, which actually is relevant in some of these endgames. Because rook knight and two pawns versus rook and 4 pawns is not as straightforward as I would have liked.
No, of course not. But since your king is close, I think maybe she missed it, but I think it's practically a good idea to trade into this because, I mean, once I go a4, I'm taking all the pieces. Like, I'm taking one of the major pieces that could mate me off the board. And I think if I'm up a knight for 2 pawns, the way these pawns are placed, it's not so easy to trade all of the pawns off here. And as long as I have 1 pawn, I feel confident I can pick some of them off. So,
yeah,
but it is entirely possible she just missed this rook takes b2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm curious, but we're gonna see because they're gonna go into this. So let's see what happens here. So rook b7, and then takes, then a3, and then you're gonna have to give up the knight for the pawn. So you could take it now, or you could play knight c3 and give it up later. You might as well just take it.
Yeah.
And then okay, so maybe this is pretty straightforward win for black. There's no way that white could have gotten the king to h3 because what I'm thinking is like if you could get the king to g4 here.
Of course, this would be scary.
Then you start to get some counterplay and things happen, but I don't think that's ever happening. So
I don't either.
Yeah,
just go knight e5 here.
So knight e5, that is played, and now if you just check a bunch, what's happening here?
So where are the checks?
So check.
King up.
Check.
King up.
To g6?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Maybe you don't have anything, huh?
Yeah. I don't see anything at the very least, but
h5, king h6.
Yeah, king over.
Yeah, being up a piece does matter a lot, doesn't it? So you just don't have enough, I think. But okay, so instead, you're king g2. Okay.
Yeah, and then just very principled. I really like this play. No nonsense. I'm going to be taking your pawn. Thank you very much, and it's just going to be over. And it really forces rook b3, and once you bring your knight back, you can run your king in safely.
Yeah, now you've actually created the place for the king to go. So I think this
white is not completely blockaded, and they're going to have to be giving up these pawns. There's no way to hold them.
Yeah, and I like this too. She doesn't even doesn't take and ever give a possibility of like anything funny. Just start winning the other pawns. The d6 pawn isn't going anywhere. So
yeah, incredible accuracy there. Just amazing play.
Yeah, and now you can take it. Or you can play king f7 too. That's
no nonsense. Yeah, why would I allow any counterplay ever?
Yeah, no counterplay at all. Like that's just great. Yeah, really good. Yeah, and this is just a few more. And now she trades him off. Now that there's knows that there's no way that white can trade all the pawns off. And
yeah, and once you push here, that now very importantly, you've created a blockade. It looks like you can go maybe like king f5 and get in, but after king f5, we run our pawn to e3, and since you don't have any pieces, you can't get back. So and the f4 and f3 square are all cut off. So you're literally you're out of moves. You can try h6 and hope that white plays e3 and you go h7 and all of a sudden you're in the game. But after h6, we're just taking, and once we take back king g6, and you don't have any moves.
Yeah. Yep. Very much just over. So yeah, interesting game. Very interesting. So there was a lot there. I think it would have been probably critical moments. I mean, there were a few critical moments, but like worth considering sometime in here. Obviously, white didn't need to go for this approach, but
I do like it. Practically speaking, very hard to play.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty critical kind of moment here of like, what's your plan at this point? And then, I mean, so my suggestion was queen b3, but I think that there's a bunch of different plans here, and so Anyway, let's keep going down the line here. We got Robert Donahue against Michael Basile. I don't know. E4, C5. Bishop
Yeah,
C5.
Robert is a very explosive player. He plays very unconventional openings, so we're probably going to see one here. It looks pretty normal though, which is surprising for Robert. And there we go, Queen G4. This is not a move you would normally expect.
Yeah. We'll see if this gets interesting or if it just gets off the rails quickly here. Yeah, so like Queen, I mean, for folks who are just, learning chess, like Queen G4, Queen H5. I mean, even for any of us, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You're just moving your queen a bunch of times in a row, and Black doesn't need to react the way it does and trade queens off. You could just play a move like Knight F5 and then kick that queen later. He decides to play Queen E5. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you're allowing White to justify their play a little bit, but takes. Okay, wants to trade him off.
Yeah, and I think this is very okay. You could have probably been a little bit more ambitious.
Yeah,
but Robert is also known to be really tactically sharp and very tricky. He can calculate just as well, if not better, than everyone at the club. So getting the queens off, I think, is very safe. Now you get into a drier, more boring position where you can't, get mated and with some sacrificing lines. So this is maybe his concept here.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. F4. Again, you probably want to be developing some pieces here, D3, something like that. F4 is for later when you have those pieces developed. A6. Attempting to trap that bishop there. A4.
Mm-hmm.
B4 also makes a lot of sense. Now, this is a little tricky because a move like bishop B3, which would be a natural way to defend it, there's this move C4. And that's actually quite a big problem for White. So, you almost have to. This is actually maybe trickier than it looks at first now. And maybe A4 was a bit of a mistake, and maybe you should have played A3 here. Although a lot of this stems from the fact that you haven't played D3 yet, because all of those moves become a little scarier when you haven't completed your development.
Yeah, I mean, King D1 I think is playable in this position, although obviously not ideal. So I'm a little surprised we didn't see that played.
Yeah, King D1. I guess you do have to worry Knight G4 stuff at some point, but here you maybe do have Knight E4 to. Because of the tempo that you're gaining on this bishop.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, all right. This is a wild move, so let's see how this goes. He doesn't trust that he can actually take on C2.
I don't think I trust that either. I think.
Yeah, maybe you can't. Maybe you can't. So that's interesting. So bishop E7, and just to kind of quickly show the reason you might not want to do this is takes. This comes with check, and now wherever the king goes, E7 or whatever, this piece is trapped in the corner. So even though you're currently up in exchange, if you can't free it,
you might just find yourself being worse, despite having this exchange right now.
Yeah, something like this, and you worry you might just lose it like this. There's still a lot to calculate here because like B5 is a real thing. So I actually think you maybe can play like this as Black, but I think it's definitely
it's tricky because if you miss one move, you can just be worse, and
you can just be worse. And on the other hand, playing bishop E7, White still has all the same problems that he just had. So like this is totally fine. Like. Bishop E7 is not a problem.
Yep, exactly. And I actually like this idea. And then in this position, maybe now you have moves like, I don't know, F5, Knight T4.
Yeah, F5. Yeah, I'm assuming F5 White plays Knight F2 and just covers it this way.
Yeah,
but yeah, or Knight G5 is kind of wild, but yeah. F5 is definitely an idea. But the game move of playing bishop D7 and just developing that piece also seems legitimate. And now there are some ideas at some point, probably not immediately, a b5 as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I like this. I think now c3 is in the cards for white, and we might be safe.
Mm-hmm.
But I also can't say this is a move that is not principled, and I mean it can't be bad unless there's some concrete something. This looks very pleasant for black. It also looks pretty okay for white, but you know, black I think has better winning chances.
Yeah, so yeah, c3 could be played. And I'm just deciding what I would do. Maybe bishop c6, maybe knight d5. Yeah, something, or even the knight back to c6. I think are all perfectly fine. So white plays knight f2, which is a little too prophylactic, I think. It's just now bishop c6, and
yeah, there's no real good way to defend this other than rook g1, and it feels like you're wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, this has been white's king is in the center, and this is feeling scary now. Knight f5.
Now I think you almost have to go pawn to c3 here. Otherwise, what are you even playing for?
Yeah. This is it. I don't like any of it, but c3 is probably what you have to play and just kind of go for it. Knight c3. I think you're going to end up getting beaten up here in the center here very quickly. So
queenside castle is nice.
Very nice. Yep, very nice. So the immediate threat is knight e3, using this pin to win the bishop in the fork. So so you almost have to play d3 here, and he plays bishop d3, but I don't know what Robert was allergic to with d3 in this game. Like it needed to be played at some point.
Yeah, I'm not certain either. Sometimes he wants to be fancy, and maybe he was trying to develop his knight from f2, hoping that there would be a capture. But of course, after this move, we're not forced to capture. So bishop d3, we can just play. Like we could even go c4 here.
C4 looks super strong. Oh, he doesn't play it, but yeah, c4 like.
But this, I mean, maybe he was afraid of bishop takes knight, and then takes, and maybe this is not as winning. So maybe knight d4.
I mean,
this looks really strong.
I'm not sure what moves white plays now. I mean, because you've actually sort of accomplished a complete lockdown of the knights here too, because this knight can't go forward anymore.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, just putting rooks on files, or I mean, actually you have an immediate threat potentially of just bishop c5 winning something too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I went way ahead. But yeah, I think, I mean, not that like I don't want to take a shot at this move at all. Like this is also
it's a good move.
It's also a perfectly good move. But yeah, I think c4 would have been very good too.
Yeah.
But now we're gonna see why this is because I think like c4 comes now, right? Yeah. So this is also
maybe he just wanted to keep the material on for an attack.
Yeah, he wanted to keep that knight on, which is totally legitimate. So takes on c2, and
now this rook is running pretty short on squares.
Yeah, not only that, now knight e3 is also a threat. So I think you're just losing you might just be losing a piece here as white.
Yeah, you may be.
This threat and this threat. Yeah, so this is just kind of a panic time. So this is a full rook now. And white still hasn't solved anything either, really. So
yeah, knight a2, not working. I'm
nice.
a little surprised by this. No, okay, hitting the rook here.
Hitting the rook, keeping the bishops active. Like this is, yeah, it's all.
You went bishop a4 is, I think, the idea then.
Yeah, you could have also like bishop a4 at some point here too. Well, yeah. Why you don't need to get fancy at all as black. Just playing good moves is good. So
now you go bishop a4 and back to it.
Yeah, and now he gets the knight out too. So now it's just.
Yeah. So Robert finding himself down a full rook, not what you want.
No, and this is the end of the game here.
Forces the bishop off, and yeah, once that bishop gets off, there's not even any active play. You're not mating this king with just a knight and a rook.
Yep. All right, let's get to Michael Muff and Torfillo. Hoskuldsen.
The Scandinavian, it looks like, just from the first two moves.
Yeah, and this bishop b5 stuff, which bishop b5 is a good idea, but it is typically better after playing d4. And there's some real like it's nitty-gritty specifics on why it's better, but Black actually, I think, does pretty well in this type of position, unless you play it like we played it here. Bishop e2 is the principle here. Like, you actually are arguing that this bishop is a little misplaced. So this is interesting. I'm not super familiar with this bishop e2 move, but I know it is the only way to play for advantage if you're going to play bishop e5 right away.
Yeah, this is mainline theory. This has been played by very strong grandmasters before. I've seen even, I think, Magnus play this line in some speed chess games, and it's not much. You see Magnus win with one pawn a4, but he did win the match. So
yeah. Okay, so knight takes, and we sort of transposed to very similar tight positions with the d4 stuff. g6, okay. c4, knight f6, okay. Knight f3, bishop g7, knight c3, castles, c5, all right.
Yeah, c5, I like the idea, but I'm not sure this is so great in this position. I think you should prepare it a little bit more.
Yeah, so this is a type of like a Benoni type structure, except you don't d6. So this is definitely a bit of a unconventional structure here. I'm curious. Well, we'll see what happens here, because I think this is kind of interesting. It's a question of how well the undermining of with e6 works right away, and I think we're going to find out. So
I think we're about to find out in a move or two. Bishop g5 is, I think, a very strong response.
Well, it's a very natural response. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what's happening here, but I guess queen b6 is kind of nice. But white is not very, or black, excuse me, is not very well developed here. So I should just say their knight is not developed. So white has an advantage in development, and it's just a question of whether he can take advantage of that or not here.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I might even try something like bishop e3 in this position. Just
if you're going to play bishop e3, though, you probably want to play it straight away back here, because then you at least gain a tempo, and there's even more. This is what I was wondering about, is like maybe this is a more accurate approach.
Maybe. I'm not sure if it makes such a big difference, because I don't think you can take on b2, but I mean, I don't. Yeah, if you're gonna go bishop e3, I think you should play it before, because black had other options rather than that.
Yeah. And so, yeah, just to kind of point this out, you're probably not taking on b2 because of knight e4. Although this is, yeah, you're probably not doing this because c5 is falling, and this is. Oh wait, you can play bishop takes though.
Wait, okay. Yeah, so we can't do this here. But you can also.
Well, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that you can't. That this isn't good for white too. But
no, it can't be, because after it takes, what are you playing? You're just worse, right?
Well, you're still threatening to put a rook on b8. You're also threatening c5. So
okay, knight a4, bishop a4, queen a4, queen e2. Unless we're trapping this queen, we're just.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that the bishop was hanging. So yes, you're right.
Yep.
Okay. So. Yeah. Okay. So maybe you can actually do that. So, so let's see. Queen d2 is played here, which that's the way to avoid any of that nonsense. Yep. So, all right. Knight g4.
It feels like it's provoking h3, and I don't think h3 can be a bad move, unless the idea is to go knight to e5.
Yeah, I think that is the idea here. Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I don't really, it was not the first thing that came to mind for me, but yeah, not sure. So h3. Oh, the idea is bishop. Wait, no, knight. Okay, knight 5. All right, and then bishop h6.
Bishop h6 is, I think, a reasonable play. Michael's trying to get in towards the king. I don't think it's a bad idea.
Well,
this position is, I'm not sure how to evaluate it. So bishop h6, we're going to see knight f3, bishop f3. So probably I'd say white is better because of that. I don't know if this knight maneuver was the right plan by Torfi.
so if just bishop e3 now, I mean, I'm thinking that that black's position is still pretty awkward here. Because like bishop h6, I don't really know if you're like, I'm trying to figure out, is white trying to just get rid of the dark squared bishops there, or is he thinking, are we thinking that that might actually lead to some kind of attack, or I'm not really sure.
I think the idea is he just wants to put his bishop on f3, and after bishop h6, black doesn't have any other play than knight takes f3 that I see, at least, just
Sure.
because we're now concretely threatening to go knight takes knight and then win the exchange.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines. So bishop h6, I think, is maybe actually rook to c8 is playable by black, but it definitely tempts black to go knight takes f3 and after bishop f3. And now our d pawn is, I think, quite scary.
Yeah. My spidey sense is going off in this position a little bit, like, because black has spent several moves to move this knight, and then just with the idea of trading it off, and that trading it off is also sort of helping white put pieces on squares he wants to be on anyway. So I'm looking at a lot of ideas here at the moment, like even like bishop e7 ideas, which I don't think quite works, but and then, but maybe my big idea is like knight e4, with threats of bishop e7, knight f6. There's just a lot going on here.
It's hard to evaluate with so many options. This is a position I think I would sit for a while at if I'm playing the white pieces.
Yeah, I'm. How long did we spend? 10 minutes on this move? Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I think that I want more from this than bishop h6 here, but that's not necessarily correct. Like bishop h6 might be practically just fine. So
yeah, no, I don't see anything wrong with it, but I think you're right. There might be more ambitious plays.
Okay, so this happens here, and then he trades it off, which I like because even though you're creating some holes here temporarily, I think black is going to be pushing these pawns anyway. Potentially, although, yeah, let's see what happens here. Okay, now like e5. Oh no, he takes. Oh, okay.
I think you can get away with it because you have this queen g7 move to hold everything.
Yeah, potentially. Let's see what happens here. I want to play rook c1. No, I want to play rook c1. Okay, so what happens after this move?
Now I probably push going like f5. Or sorry, yeah, f5 or something.
f5. I am very scared for black here again because okay, so like obviously one idea is to play rook b1 and just go after this. And if you play a move like f5, you're actually potentially strengthening that idea too. So like,
Yeah, the problem is I have bishop c6 here. I think I'm
yeah, bishop c6 is and then like here. I think this is very, very sketchy for black.
Yeah, it might be. It might have to go like a rook e8, and
Sorry.
I don't like that position.
Oh, sorry, I'm crazy here.
Yeah, maybe yeah, rook c1 is probably definitely a better attempt at the very least.
I think rook c1 is potentially very good here. I would be very concerned for black here. Yeah. Okay. So he plays knight e4, and that does allow some direct kind of resources to get back with queen g7. So black takes there first. Okay. Now rook b1.
Now queen g7. Okay, queen e5. He just wants to play a little bit more active. That I guess makes sense, but it feels shaky.
Yeah, I think black should be pretty eager to trade queens here. I think queen g7 makes a lot of, and again, you sort of force it now because of this kind of intermezzo. This is now the knight's under attack, so you almost have to. So unless there's a really straightforward something like this, I'm assuming would be what he was concerned about. And I mean, white's better here too. So it's not like this is straightforward.
Yeah, you got to go something like, I don't know, bishop f5 might be playable, but bishop f5 takes. Yeah, I don't know. My head is spinning.
Yeah, so black's currently up a pawn, so I think you almost have to look at something like what happens when things just come off here, and something like this, and just say, okay, yeah, white's got the bishop versus the knight, but this is a chess game, and black is holding on here. This is the kind of thing that I'd be looking at playing with black. But I probably have a different view of this position than he does, because if he's playing queen e5, he might be thinking, I'm better here.
White has to be better. I mean, you haven't developed your rook or your knight in the corner. That's not.
Yeah, but on the other hand, black is up 2 pawns currently, so.
Yeah. Sure, it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that way, and I agree, and that's why I would be trying to get out of dodge as much as I can here. So,
yep.
So white goes like this. Yeah, this is so scary for black.
What do you even play?
Yeah, he's just not developed. Like this knight is a big problem.
Do you just go like knight a6?
Yeah, the question is like, is knight a6 actually? It helps connect the rooks, so that's nice. So maybe, yeah, b6. Okay.
Very greedy, very greedy. Maybe it's subjectively best, but I'm.
If you can play b6, it stops. I mean, the big thing isn't really necessarily the saving of material with the pawns. You're still a pawn up, but the issue, the bigger thing is if you can keep white's rook from invading on the 7th. That b6 does make sense. But we'll see if it works. All right, so rook e1.
No concrete threat there, so maybe you have time to play something. Maybe like and after rook e1, maybe you have time to go knight a6 and finish your development.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, what white does, all the straightforward, it's worth pointing out, I think, that all the straightforward moves have very clear responses, like knight g5 threatening mate is queen g7. And then like any any d6 is immediately met by probably bishop c6, could be knight c6, either way. Yep. So these are the straightforward moves don't immediately win.
Yeah, so black is probably better if there's nothing concrete, just because of the extra material. So white is trying to find tricky moves like rook to e1 to maybe create some chances.
Well, I mean, I definitely wouldn't say that black is better here. I think white has full compensation for a pawn and probably more still, but like it's not straightforward. There's not like an immediate win. And so like a queen g7, yes, if the queens were to come off immediately, then you could start to say, ooh, black's got some chances to win this, and hold on. But there's no reason white has to trade queens. So here we go.
Yeah. Okay, bishop f. I'm not a huge fan of that move, but I don't think it's wrong either.
Well, he's just kind of pinning this. He's, and a space also for the knight to get developed to d7. So I think that makes some sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, queen c7. Okay.
Knight a6 is being provoked, I think, and I think it's a move we want to play.
Yeah, maybe. Is he trying to get his queen to e7? Maybe.
Maybe he's just trying to support the passed pawn. Is that the idea?
Could be. I'm kind of wondering if he's thinking like queen e7, knight f6. I mean, that would be. Black certainly doesn't need to allow that kind of stuff. So yeah, queen c7 feels a little contrived. Like that's. I guess you're not even really threatening queen b7 because knight d7 is always a potential response. So all right,
Yeah.
so he plays knight a6, queen c6 played.
That's an interesting choice.
Yeah, I think white is just kind of floundering now. Like I don't think he couldn't come up with a plan necessarily, and maybe it's just kind of just moving now. Because like I think if you're going to play like this, like the consistent thing would be to play a queen e7, at least creating a threat of knight f6. You know.
Yeah.
Of course, maybe f6 is just fine, and maybe this is who knows, but.
Yeah, maybe this is correct then. I don't know, but yeah, playing this queen c6 just helps, I think. And now after queen to a4, presumably to save the a pawn, you know. I think he's winning this d pawn now, and it's
yeah. Black is definitely now getting pieces out, and
now I feel like it's almost over, just out of nowhere.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, you can take there because of the threat of knight c3. So normally you'd say, okay, well, white could do some stuff here maybe or something, who knows, but knight c3 is actually a pretty good threat. So
yeah. He tries this bishop b1 though.
Bishop e1 runs into bishop takes knight.
And then
I think that's messy. Really messy.
After rook d8?
Rook d8, yeah. Oh my, bishop takes. What's going on here?
If you go bishop takes, I go rook takes.
And then rook e. So what's happening after that?
And now I think I go queen takes.
Yeah. So you're just double pawn here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's.
And then more importantly, I had rook d2, and I'm starting to attack. Maybe not anything concrete, but I'm winning the a2 pawn as well. So I'm up 2 pawns in that lane. So
yeah. Okay. So interesting. So he can take. So he does take. Okay. So this is what happened in the game.
Rook ad. We might actually see exactly this line.
We
there we go.
Stumbled upon exactly what they played.
Knight f2, queen f2, rook takes, and then rook d2. Okay, the exact line we were saying, and now we're winning the a pawn or the f pawn, one of the two, and I think it's going to be.
Well, you can't. Yeah, you can't give up the f pawn. I don't think so. You have to defend that. So, but yeah, this is going to be.
And I don't even know if we want to take, because I mean, just centralize the queen makes it hard to do anything really. Maybe you can go queen a2 and try something, but I mean, I'm even a fan of a move like queen d4, queen f5. Sorry, queen d5 or queen f5 here.
Yeah, so this is a really it's sort of an interesting endgame from the standpoint of it looks like it should be really straightforward for black. Up a pawn, nice pass c pawn, the ability to centralize queen. The challenge here though is with this missing f pawn and the queen and rook, like there's going to be some counterplay opportunities here. Like for example, like obviously black's going to get to make some moves here, but rook e1, rook e7 is a very straightforward like idea of how you can go forward here for white. And yeah, this will be interesting. Like I don't think this is immediately like over, even though it's definitely just up a pawn.
Yep.
All right, so yep, queen e5 makes a lot of sense. In part because I think black should be pretty happy to trade off rooks if he can.
Yep, I agree.
I think that would be a good next step. So, and in this particular position, I also think black would be very happy to trade queens, and that's not true of every rook endgame. But in this case, I think that this rook endgame with the pass c pawn, the 3 versus 1, this should be very simple to win with
yeah, there's no real good way to hold that a pawn, so I think you're just going to be up 2 pawns in this rook endgame, and that should be sufficient.
Yeah, but even without, even if you can't win the A pawn, I think this is, I think it'd be very different if you say took this F pawn and put it on B3 and you had a 3 versus 2 on one side of the board or something. But because it's a 3 versus 1, yeah, and this is a very strong passer. I would say that the rook endgames just on principle without even having to worry about calculating much.
And I feel like we can watch them just show their technique for a lot of this game. So yeah, queen f5 makes sense. Then we follow up queen c4, king f8. Yeah, and running towards the center is very nice because if you go to the corner, you're just going to be perpetualed. And yeah, to protect, offers queen trade, queen c3, and now we might even grab the a pawn because we're under attack and we're almost obliged to grab it now. So
yeah, although this gets messy, and this is maybe a good illustration of what happens in these kinds of positions, because white's going to get a lot of checks now, and not only is he going to get a lot of checks, the rook can come into the action too. So this is
one thing for more beginners to do this. This is probably objectively the best line for black, but the way to win endgames is to calculate until you see the win. And so I would assume that black played this because they saw, all of these lines, and they probably evaluated this as winning for them. Because instead of taking a2, black did have rook to d4 just to avoid all these complications, but it looked like they used a pretty decent chunk of time before they took that pawn, and I think they just saw to the end of this line.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. I would be very scared to play this way as black, actually. I don't like rook e1, and the reason I don't like rook e1 is because I want my rook to, if the king were to ever go to the d file, then the rook and queen get both in, and then this becomes very, very tricky. I'm assuming queen e6 would have been played here in this position.
Maybe. We might even be able to just go king to d7 here, and after rook check, then we just run back to the c square, and I don't actually see any checks. No, c8, because I don't see any checks. And better checks. So now you got to move your f pawn. And
I'm concerned for black.
I mean, I'm looking at stuff like queen f5 and seeing if I can get in.
Yeah, so this is way down a road here,
yeah,
but
it's just concrete. If you don't see the end of this line, you shouldn't be playing it.
Yeah, I just want to go back here because I think this is a really kind of a position a lot of people could learn from. I would be very tempted as black to just look at this position and go, the only relevant factor for me winning this game is to get the c pawn rolling. And since white's rook is tied down to f1 right now, I would consider a move like just rook c2, c4, c3, and I don't care if you grab all these pawns over here. I'm going to say this pawn, this is the most relevant thing. And then when you start checking, I'm going to hide my king on h6 because my queen covers all the relevant checking squares. And that would be this like, I don't need to think. I don't need to calculate all this stuff. I don't need to do any of it. And if you're concerned, hey, I don't want to lose this pawn as well, then you can always retreat back here and protect the pawn. But yeah, I just am this what happened in this game. Black looks like this wasn't exactly what would happen, but I would have been very scared as black that this isn't winning anymore. But goes for this instead, and this is similar. So let's see. Okay, so queen here.
Yep. Now black seems to get some shelter from his pawns. So maybe
yeah, this is different in that sense. Yep.
And the king, this rook check looks nice, but king a5, and then what? Yeah, and we see this now. Queen comes in trying to threaten mate, but this is these are empty threats. There's no concrete anything. So I think this is maybe just quite good for.
Okay, so queen b7, is that what's played? Okay, and then queen a6.
Queen a6 maybe.
Yeah, queen a6 is played.
Then maybe queen e4. I don't know. Instead of queen e4, which I think might have been a slightly slipperier attempt.
Well, there's queen e4 runs into queen e2, and that might force the queens off the board.
Yeah, so maybe this is the best try. So he takes the pawn, and then the idea is if he takes on g6, now the g pawn is defended, and might be a draw then. So okay, instead we see queen takes, and Torfi starts running his pawns, which makes good sense. Pass pawns should be pushed. And it also tactically, opens up the queen to see the g6 pawn, which is also very important. So killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. Queen c7 probably doesn't quite work now that I'm calculating it out. Yeah, okay, so maybe this is good. Queen c7 runs into queen b6. So instead we see queen to f7, trying to attack the rook. And we see c4, very nice, just closing it off, and you're marching your pawns down. This is a very hard argument to argue against, saying, you know what, I'm being attacked, but why not just put pawns? Because at this point, my king is safe enough, and if I get one of these pawns far enough, I'm just going to get a queen, and that seems pretty convincing to me.
Yeah, there's a lot still here. So queen e7. It's a good try, but there is this check, so that's
king h1.
Yep.
A rook a4, interesting. I might have just kept pushing. Go b4, b3.
No, there's tactics. You might run into rook takes here.
Yeah. This is well, wait, no, don't I just go check and then takes? And now I go check here.
There's no check. Oh, there's check queen g1, huh? But then king there.
Yeah, queen. I was looking.
Then queen e1.
Then queen e1 trade queens, and then
this does win, but it's very tricky. Yep. So yeah, that's a hard one to see that this doesn't work actually.
Yeah. Okay. But okay. Instead, we see.
So he played rook h4,
which is fine. Yeah. Now here, and let's breeze through this because we're almost out of time, and we have, I think, 1 or 2 games left to go over.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. We push. Just keep going, and this looks pretty strong.
Sure. Yeah. At this point, that pawn's just going and. Black just started pushing everything. So,
yep, yeah, very nice finish here. The point is after rook e3. By the way, you queen with c1, and you win the rook. So rook e3 is not winning the black queen. So instead, I think we saw a resignation here.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot you can analyze in there. We could do that for days, but yeah, I think that's well worth studying on your own with more time. So. All right, we got to run through these. So
go through the next 2 games.
I know this one was quick. So this is Normiron and Andres Ortiosa. Before Locali. I'm gonna fly through this. 94.
Very normal stuff. I think Andres is in book here. Still.
Well, yeah, this is a kind of a standard kind of. Structure at least, if not the moves. Probably D5 to me seems a little. I mean, even though that's a normal move in like any sort of a stonewall structure, here black has the option of not playing like that because your piece is already on a good square. You don't have to play like this. But that said, it can't be bad either.
Yeah. So builds the center, knight in.
This is the one downside of playing like that is that you allow that knight out. So, all right, this is a normal stonewall.
Brings in, and I mean, just very fluid development for the black pieces. I think black definitely is happy with his opening here.
Well, that said, I think this is a nice move. It kind of potentially does some things here, but let's see how he reacts to it. So, he just ignores it. Okay, that's fair. Interesting. Bishop c6.
Yeah, bishop c6, knight c6, queen e8, nothing.
Well,
Nothing
yeah. Oh, okay. So you're just arguing, okay, white's got this dark square bishop that's no good. And
yeah,
even though
and my knights are clearly better, and now my knight on e4 is going to be untouchable if you end up trading.
yeah. Yeah, there's no way to hold on to the dark square bishop if you're black anyway at this point, probably. I guess you could play bishop a6 or something crazy, but that seems like
no reason to get complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't actually like trading the knight for the bishop in that position there, just because that bishop is not going anywhere.
Yeah, well, it can go to d6, and actually this is a pretty decent bishop. Although, yeah, I think it's maybe 6 to 1/2 dozen the other. White's a little worse either way.
Yeah. And yeah, white's got to go like bishop e1 here, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if he cares that much if he trades it off for it. This is going to be a bad bishop, so yeah, you're right though. Bishop e1 just to try to trade it off makes sense. So
yeah,
there that goes. Okay.
See this bishop h4. Norm, I think, is playing practically pretty well.
Yep, he takes there, which makes sense.
Gf6.
Yep, gf6.
Yeah, and Andres is going to try to attack here.
Yep, he's going to just come at him down the file here. Oof. And it's coming pretty quick, actually.
It is coming very fast, yeah. And yeah, I can see how this game ended pretty quickly from here. Yeah. And we see knight h4, which is just, it runs into rook g4, I think, and almost resignable.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is resignable.
And in fact, we do see resignation.
Yeah, just G-file stuff. Yep. All right. Well, that was quick.
Last match of the night is going to be in English, and it looks like Eric, I think the highest rated seed other than Nathan Hooper in the open section, facing Noah, who I think is around 1,500. So a 400 point, 300 point, somewhere around there difference. So Noah, I think, is going to be trying to play very solid. Last month, I believe he was taken down by Eric. So maybe a match to even the scores here.
Yeah, this is a kind of a Catalan type position.
Very principled.
Yeah. Takes bishop takes bishop g5.
Okay, bishop b5. Yeah, I mean this is all been seen before. It's not so hard to blunder for either side, but if both of them know their theory, I think this will probably end peacefully. BC knight bd7. I've never actually seen this particular play, but I think it's fine.
Yeah,
I'm just doing all the captures in my head, and yeah, it seems to work out fine. Takes, yeah, takes, knight takes, and yeah, this looks dry. Queen takes, and yeah, this looks like a pretty quick, peaceful draw.
So yeah, so white was trying to play off this isolated pawn. I just said, hey, I'm going to do this for a while. Interesting. E3.
Black could have actually done something interesting back in this position instead of doing all of this. I think they might actually have bishop takes d4 just to make the pawn symmetrical, and then argue that if you take the rook, then I have bishop takes on e with check, and once you move your king, I might push, or I might even get greedy and no, I have to do this. I was thinking I had some like other bishop move, but no, yeah, do this and argue that your e pawn is going to fall, and it probably will. They're probably right, and try and push for a win like this. But at the same time, you know, Eric is substantially higher rated if I remember correctly. So why go into these complications? Because what if you're wrong?
Yeah, and I mean I don't think you quite have enough here. So I think white is still better, and it's just a question of yeah, I don't think black has to go into any of that. So
yeah, and this looks like a draw now. Rook c2. Yep, exactly what we see. Take 6 blocks, yeah, and I think this is just a pretty straightforward draw now.
Well, I don't know, but I know we don't have an hour to look at this position, but yeah, it's interesting because these pawn end games, this is probably a draw because of he's got these two squares that the king's going to be able to go back and forth.
Of course, you do have to calculate it. You are right, but I've played a lot of these end games, and I kind of know the ideas and principles. And white is doing a good job at trying to make it complicated, but black is holding all the right squares. Now you just shuffle your king back and forth, and I can't see white making progress here.
Well, what's going to end up happening is you're always counting things like, so if b5 is played here, he ends up playing a5. I guess a5 is even. It's just a question of how quick you get to these pawns. So,
yep.
Like for example, if you play b5, takes here, and you just need to count basically.
Yep.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's, I mean, white's not obligated to go for this, and so it's just a draw in this type of position.
Yeah.
So he goes for a5 instead, and which is presumably going to be similar but a little different. Yeah, so h3, and now, yeah.
Yep, and now this is, I think.
Yeah. Again, you can start to count, but in this case, it's even worse for white, I think, because you, for example, you do this. Well, now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's still 8, but now this queen covers that, so now you actually lose. So
exactly.
Yeah. So instead, he goes for this, and then it's just a draw. So
yep.
Yeah, interesting.
Nicely played. In the Nathan Hoover game, it looks like Nate ends up winning. We just accidentally blunder a piece with bishop takes pawn in this position. Nate, this rook f3 move just think very playable, but after bishop c8, it's hard. Yeah, now you go like rook f1 or something, but instead we see queen c2, which I think just doesn't quite address the threat and allows this skewer, not skewer. Yeah, it's a skewer, I guess, of bishop c4, and after g4, and after that takes back. I like black now.
Yeah, this definitely went pretty poorly, pretty quickly, actually. Yeah, I mean, this is just kind of an unforced error with queen c2. Probably could have just even played like h3 or something, and kept the pressure up. But all right, so get c4 in.
Yeah, this check now pick up a pawn.
Interesting. So he takes. Oh wow.
Yep, and
so b4.
Once you pick up this pawn, now I think white is struggling.
Well, this is, I mean, again, this is very complicated, and we're past 10:30. But b4 is an option, and yeah, this is also an option. So, what is going on here?
Yep.
And so now he takes back.
You have to take.
So you got two pieces for the rook here. I don't understand why white is worse. Oh,
I don't like this play.
Yeah, I mean, if you just play knight d3 here.
Yeah, it's probably maybe even white is pushing a little.
White's better here. Yeah, white's better. It's two bishops for a rook. Like this is very, very good for white, I think. So, but now he gives him the chance to take on f2.
Now you're down a pawn.
Now you're just down a pawn. Yeah. So that went.
And then we see pawn push, trying to create some play. Queen here, very nice. And a little bit of too fancy of a move.
Oh, then queen h4. He missed queen h4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do
now
it.
It's over.
Yeah. Once you make one mistake, it's easy to make another one. So
yeah.
All right.
So looks like tonight every single board was a black victory except for the Noah versus Eric game. So very, very strange showing, because normally you'd expect to see more white wins, but good job, black players, tonight, I guess. Some very sharp matches. Several of them are some very pretty positional games and a lot of really tactical ones too. Once again, congratulations to Jacob, player of the night, winning his game. That's always exciting, especially when you're featured and then you're showing that you're playing some good chess. That's always nice. Yeah. Do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I mean some really interesting games. I think well worth looking at some of those games with a little more time. That Queen and Rook end game was that the Michael and Torfy game would have been really interesting. And then also I think like Seraphima's game was really well played in particular.
Yeah, some very impressive chess tonight. Well, I think that's all the time we have. Once again, there is a Grandmaster camp on, I believe, the 22nd of August. So if you have not already signed up and you want to go, sign up soon. And I think that's all we have. All right.